Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so I just got through watching a documentary called Creation and Catastrophe on YouTube for free, and taxing on the spirit is what I would call that, man. That was taxing on the soul. I think the harsh nature of what the world truly is, you really get to see it when you watch stuff like that, about an hour and 30 minutes on just how Israel was basically manifested. Then that's the manifested, conquered. I guess the word conquered would probably be a better way to describe that. It was really Palestinian land, and they forced them people out of there. That's really the story, man. Wow. It's just I just got through watching it. You know what I mean? So I'm still trying to absorb what I saw. But basically, what I was not clear on is whether or not that was considered Jewish land before the Palestinians got there thousands of years ago. That's what I'm not clear on, because I think that's the argument they're trying to make, like this was our land initially, earlier. Y'all found y'all way here, and we coming back to get it in the 20s. That's what I'm not clear on. But everything else was pretty clear, that the Palestinians were living there, settled, enjoying themselves for generations, and Israeli Jews got displaced by circumstances where they were, and came by way of the British to the understanding that they could snatch up some of Palestinian land and turn it into what Israel is known as today. That's how that went. Or at least that's what the documentary provided us the understanding of, in interviewing both Jewish people and Palestinian people throughout the course of that documentary. And I just understand that's just the story of the world. People conquer land. Even though there's plenty of land that's unoccupied, people want to live where they want to live. People want to live where other people have lived because of various different things like farming and weather. And that's what it is. You start thinking about how the world would be so much easier if unoccupied land was occupiable. That's really what it comes down to. Look at all that slab of land down in Antarctica and say if only that was livable. You know what I mean? People could take over those lands and live there. Or certain deserts that are just too hot to live in, people could just snatch up those lands. But people want to live where other people can live so they can farm. And so when it comes down to that, people have to snatch up each other's land, and it comes down to a fight, man. And so Israel conquered the Palestinian land, and that's kind of how it trickles down to what we're seeing today. They kicked them people out, and they went back and forth and did horrible things to one another in response to that initial fight. Battles, horrors. And when you allow for horrors, you get the worst of human beings who often fight those battles. Some of your soldiers are rapists and serial killers and murderers, and that's really what it's about. That's what it really comes down to. Once you open the door to war, all the crazies jump into these armies, and when they get a chance to inflict their demonic energy onto people, they do so. And you hear about it throughout the course of all war, which is why war, in my opinion, is such an irresponsible thing to engage in. Because you really do have maniacs out here that need war in order to inflict their interests and their passions onto humans. It's irresponsible if you're a leader to open the door for that. And that's what I really think after watching this. It ain't as simple as, okay, we're occupying this, you attack us, we attack back. No, it's the demented Michael Myers type individuals that really make these things what they are. And you hear about it all the time. And we're seeing some of that stuff right now in our phones, in this situation that's taking place right now. Someone had commented in the comment section from us, for everybody who saw the comment, to see this documentary, and I had some time to kill, so I watched it. I feel informed, but I still have some questions. But at the end of the day, I just think that what we're seeing is this flat out domination. And it's sad because a lot of times the understanding in these dominations, in these type of situations, is it usually comes down to just people taking over other people's land and thinking they're entitled to it. People pushing people out, kids and women and children get thrown out in the streets, slaughtered, all kinds of horrible stuff, just so the land can be occupied. And usually the people who take over the land consider themselves justified in doing so. The celebration of throwing people out in the streets, listening to the soldiers talk about how it was basically them or us, and it wasn't about to be us. That's just like, it speaks to the truth, man. It speaks to the truth. This is how this land was found. It did it to the natives. And I'm willing to bet if we go through the history books, we're going to find that most land was occupied that way. Most land had this happen, where people were sitting there minding their business, and there's some other people from somewhere else who were likely pushed out of where they were, likely done wrong where they was at, took the learned behavior from the horror inflicted on them and inflicted on others. As I always say, passing forward the evil. That's what they did. They learned from who did what to them, and they took the pain of having what happened to them and made them evil, made them cold, made them have no heart. And with that lack of empathy, they then looked at it and said, okay, well, we got to do this to somebody else so we can have our place of peace. And it will justify that. Race people from the history books do the same thing that happened to them, because it's not that they hated what happened to them, they just learned that it was effective. That's what we're seeing today, man. I think the difference between now and any of those times in the past is we got the internet, and the internet can show us exactly what it looks like. But killing babies and ethnic cleansings and stuff like this is what people have always done, man. This is how lands are occupied. People, it's ugly. And not only is it ugly, but it's torturous, demented, and ultimately the innocence of these different countries get the worst of it. Why? Because if you kill off the kids, they don't grow up to be soldiers that come back and get you for what you've done. That's why they do this. A lot of what I was able to understand there is they weren't letting the people come back to Palestine to Israel, because if they did, they would become the majority and take it back over. So it wasn't just about whether or not it's right or wrong. It's about protection of oneself after taking somebody's land. You send them in exile, they come back 10 times bigger because they had families to begin with that were big. Bunch of children in every one of these households you snatched them out of. And although you had a big army, they had a lot of kids. And so they come back, everybody grown. You can't let that happen, because if you do, they're going to come back and push you right back out of the land that you took from them with the bigger army, more or less. That wasn't bigger when you did it. I don't know enough of history to know everything that there is to know about conquering. But the British plays a role in a lot of these stories I hear about. The Americas played a role in a lot of these stories I hear about. And I would like to see more, to learn more, to know where exactly we stand in regards to this here. Why America's willing to back Israel in the process of this continued ethnic cleansing of a land that was taken from people. We clearly understand at this point, after watching what I watched, we clearly understand that a lot of wrongdoing was done there. People who were innocent didn't deserve to be pushed out of their house, didn't deserve to be pushed around like they were. They didn't deserve that. And so when I hear people say free Palestine, I know exactly what they're talking about now. I wasn't informed. Now I am somewhat. I would imagine I have some understanding. think this ends well. Now that I've seen what I've seen, and now I have a better understanding, I don't think this ends well. I think there's going to be a lot more killing going on both sides. But I would have to ask the people who waved the Israeli flag after what I just saw. I hope you don't expect everybody to continue to see you the same way, now that this is something that's now in our heads. This is bad, man. This is really bad. And that's what I want people to understand. I feel for the Israeli people who are innocent. There are a lot of them. There are good people out there. But we're seeing the ugliness of you trying to keep your land and trying to keep those people out of it because of the times we're in. We're seeing it. And that is going to paint a horrible picture in the court of public opinion about you. Not to say that you're any worse than America, because we, like I said, natives, slaves, I get it. Not to say you're any worse than any other conquering countries, because, hey, I get it. That's what it's done. But there was never any Palm Pilot cameras in the hands of the people who were hearing about this story. We're actually seeing babies. The post that I initially saw this in was a post of a young man. I call him a young man out of respect, but I think he was 11 years old. He was deceased, wearing a Batman shirt. He never hurt nobody. But in order for y'all to keep this thing going, he's being targeted. I saw yet another thing where a man was carrying his 2-year-old wrapped in sheets because the baby was gone. Walking down the street, it's like, because we see this, you're going to be the face of modern day conquering. That's really what it comes down to, Israel. You're the face of modern day conquering. And we see it. It's not like we hear the stories from the biblical days when they ran through, killed everybody, wiped out everybody, and took the land. That was understood. That was hearsay. It was awful. But we can't see it. This, we're being traumatized by these images of you enacting this upon those people. I tell you, it doesn't work now that the internet exists. That's basically what I'm telling people. The stuff that y'all been doing to take each other's land for the longest, I'm telling you right now, it don't work anymore. It doesn't work. Not with the advent of the internet. It just doesn't work. You cannot possibly think that you're going to be able to settle in peace now that people are being traumatized by what they see in their phones. You ain't going to know where it's coming from now. That's how that goes. Now you're creating enemies in places that don't have nothing to do with your conflict because they're thinking of their own kids. You know what I mean? That's the problem with doing stuff while the internet is watching. That's the problem. Now you may have an enemy in China who was just hurt by the fact that they lost their kid in a situation like this, and they look in their phone and they see this, and they start devising ways to try and destroy you. That's not something the old conquerors had to deal with. That's not something the settlers and the pilgrims had to deal with. This creates new problems for those who are trying to settle anywhere after conquering something. Problems that are definitely deserving for those actions. But I do think that this could be the beginning of one of these. You know, I don't want to speak nothing into the existence, but after what I just saw, coupled with what it is that I've been seeing, meaning after watching 2.5 hours or an hour and a half rather of that documentary, coupled with what has been in my phone from the various things that have happened over the last week and a half, I would be very surprised if the world doesn't go to war here. I'd be very surprised. Especially with America, by way of its government, backing Israel. And then its people, its very own people, overwhelmingly seeing all of this in their phones. It doesn't work. And because the administration is slow to react to that truth, it's creating a uprising, so to speak, in our own country about what we're seeing over there. This could be the beginning of something very unprecedented. Could be. Because when I look on Biden and his Instagram, and I look on Kamala's Instagram, and they want to talk about different things that have to do with us, and you look at what is being put in those comment sections, it is overwhelmingly, I'd say 97%, people saying, why aren't you addressing this issue? Why aren't you doing more about this? Why aren't you condemning these things? Now, if this was the 70s, you may be able to pull this off. The misdirection, hey, you don't see what your eyes tell you. You don't need to know the history. Just know that we got your back. Just know that we're doing the right thing for us. That's not going to fly when people are seeing disturbing images in their phone. It don't work. People who have children are watching children, not concerned about their color. Definitely not with a fight in the, don't have a horse in the race. You know what I mean? These are not our kids. It's not our land. But people have, human beings have children. People have nephews and nieces. I got nieces and nephews, man. A lot of the kids that I'm seeing in my phone that are deceased are the ages of my nieces and nephews, man. And I look at my president, and my president's talking about policies, pandering to me about some stuff that I don't even, I don't care nothing about that, fam. You want to talk to me about healthcare when I'm looking at kids with these types of fate, like with this type of fate. I'm looking at these images, and I got two different problems to consider right now. Not only am I considering my own selfishness in regards to being traumatized by what I'm seeing, but then I realize that these are really human beings that this is happening too. And you want me to sit here and care about me as it pertains to, at least I got my policy, so we ain't gonna let it happen here because America's only interested in America. Like, that doesn't work with the internet, fam. That don't work when I see this crap in my phone, man. Every time I scroll, every 3 posts is somebody's dead child, fam. And I'm not asking that people stop posting this. I'm asking that people understand what comes of this. Because I see it. It's called uprising, overthrowing of governments and stuff like that. People start thinking the enemy is right here in the White House. Talking about funding this, funding that. What it is that we see with our own eyes, you funding that. It becomes a very dangerous and unprecedented problem when people ignore the fact that we're seeing this in our phones. Faces of children gone, looking up at nothing. 7 years old, 6 years old, 3 years old. I never seen anything like this in my life. I've known of these things happening. You hear of these things happening, but they keep it from us. We don't, you know what I mean? Throughout the course of my lifetime, this was unheard of to actually lay eyes on these things. Now, every 3 minutes. If I'm on Instagram, it's every 3 minutes. To say I've been desensitized is a joke at this point. I expect to see it. And in the other posts, my president not acknowledging it, or my president coming to the side of Israel as if they're the only ones that's ever Hamas. I ain't seen a Hamas murder yet. I don't know what it even looks like. All I know is what I've seen over the last hour and a half, coupled with all of the trauma that's been inflicted on the people of Gaza. That's all I've seen, man. That's it. And you want me to come to the aid of the people who are inflicting this on them? Or you want me to support them because you, by way of policy and politics, are in bed with them? I'm telling you, man, it's gonna get to a point where you'll see exactly how bad this is from an unprecedented standpoint, because we have never seen anything like this. Our people are really being traumatized by what we're seeing, and their people are going through it. I left the Democratic Party before this. I've been a Democrat all my life, even though I wasn't really following politics, but I was out about 1.5 years ago. When I last read up or whatever it is, say, oh, you want to vote? Who you going with? I'm independent now. I left the Democratic Party, man. I'm cool. I don't trust either side. I don't know enough about enough. All I know is I've seen enough in this state to know I can't roll with the Dems no more. They didn't ruin my state, straight up. But there's a Democratic president in office, and what I would want from my president, regardless of who it is to at least acknowledge just how awful this is. Regardless if we in cahoots with these guys or not, whether we, they're part of our gang or not, fam. They're murdering babies. And I don't care whose land it was first. I don't give a damn that it happened to your people first. I don't want you reacting that way. I don't. I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm not for that. They tried to, one of the people who was trying to support that, whether it was a troll account or not, invoked the name of Nat Turner. Nat Turner was an individual who killed women and children in the name of freeing slaves. He was going around chopping them up with axes and stuff. Fam, I tell Nat like I tell anybody else, not the babies, fam. I'm not rolling. I don't believe that that's the way to free yourself. If you're going to take out the grown men, the ones who can fight back, fair game. But if you're going to take out children who ain't got a chance to turn into nothing, children can be raised to be anybody. Children can grow up to be anybody. John Brown was a white child. Y'all know who John Brown was? Like, I'm in a space where I'm like, yo, I can't close my eyes and just say what a lot of nations say, which is if we let the kids grow up, they're going to come back and kill us. I understand that that's wisdom in certain situations that has happened. But I can't see myself supporting the killing of babies in the name of protecting myself. I think as a grown man, my responsibility is to protect children, no matter who they are. Your kids, my kids, they kids. Whoever's kids, bro. They can be raised together. I was raised in a melting pot of children. We can be raised together. You understand? I was surrounded by Asian kids of different countries. Armenian kids, Caucasian kids, black kids, Spanish kids of many countries, Jewish kids, all in one spot. I showed y'all where that spot was today, Children's Club. I went down there today, even though it's gone. It was everybody there, man. They can be raised together. You don't have to do this. For those who believe they need to do this, you don't. That's wrong. You can't be certain what a kid's gonna grow up to be, and you certainly know they're not gonna grow up to be nothing if you knock them off before they get a chance to grow up. You can be certain of that. They ain't gonna grow up to be a damn thing. You kill them off. And that's what I think is going on here, man. They're targeting children. They're not targeting soldiers. They're targeting the future. In the name of saving themselves. It's just bad. It's bad math, man. That math doesn't work. They think it works. The devil will allow you to believe that math works, but in the long run, you're just creating terrorists that are going to come back and do the same thing to somebody else. Not come back and do it to you. No, they learn the behavior, they see it's effective, and they're going to keep pushing it forward. Just like we say, paying it forward with good stuff, go pay it forward with bad stuff. It ain't as simple as coming back killing y'all. No. They're going to take somebody else's land, just like you took theirs. Dumb word. But you don't care, because 70 years later, you get to occupy their land even still, and dance and enjoy your lives, and you drink tea and pray to your God and all of this different stuff that you think you're justified in doing because you conquered their land 70 years ago and they weren't strong enough to come back and take it back or whatever. Nobody normalized telling you that you shouldn't have did that. Just like nobody normalized telling us that this shouldn't have been done here. Shouldn't have been done. You don't do this to nobody. Can we be the first generation that sees the trauma and the ugliness as a nation and condemns it forevermore. Anyone who's ever done it and anyone who would dare do it again. I don't care why you feel you're justified in saving yourself. And the trauma that you went through, I'm sorry it happened to you. But for you to push it off on somebody else, karma come early. That's it. Karma come early. You got what came your way, and then you decided to do what it took to deserve that for which happened to you. That's all that is. You try to justify it by looking at everybody who's around and trying to appeal to that same selfishness that you think is in them. It ain't. In a lot of cases, it's just in you. That's an energy that you harbor yourself to save yourself at the expense of everybody else. Don't think people who have a heart for what it is that they're seeing that you're doing are going to sit back and say, well, because we haven't seen the support we received, or because they're not doing it to us, it should be fine. Nah, that's your selfishness. That's your evil. I ain't rolling with that. I'm not raising my kids to be that way. Even if it was your land first, and even if the Lord told you you're going to get that land back, He never told you to kill children to take it back. He never told you that. And whatever's in the book that may have made you think you needed to do that, you interpreted it wrong. If it was written by the God I know, He didn't tell you to do that. He would have gave you back the land a different way if you would have been a bit more patient. If that's how this went, you would have got the land. You did not have to insert your evil into the equation to get it. It's a lie. The devil was a liar, and you bought the lie. That's how that went. I feel so bad for the good people that have to suffer this nonsense, or any type of nonsense that's going to happen going forward, as people continue to try to knock each other off to take land from one another. We don't have to be this ugly, humanity. We don't. Just because everybody's ever been this way, who didn't know any better, does not mean as we continue to evolve, we have to continue to kick that can down the road, or allow those who do kick that can down the road to go unpunished. Just because it worked doesn't mean it should work going forward. Aren't we evolving? Or are we just continuing to do what the cavemen did? That's what I have to ask humanity at this point. Are we still doing the stuff that our ancestors did when they didn't know science, when they didn't understand mental health, when they didn't understand this and that and the third? Because it worked for them. And we're going to do it now? No. We're supposed to be finding better ways of doing what we do. We're supposed to be finding more humane ways of handling one another, of working through our problems. I think it's some who want to keep us in the dark ages because of the chaos that they want in their lives, that they want to see happen, and they want the triumph that they feel they get from conquering others. It ain't never necessary to continue doing stuff like that. Not now. Not when we just went through a pandemic that almost took us all out. We should know. We should know better. To say I'm disappointed in humanity ain't true. I'm disappointed in those few who want to keep the nonsense going. Because I'm telling you, I'm part of humanity, and I have no interest in that. I tell people I want to be the good that I want to see in the world. I'm not waiting for your compassion. I'll show my own. That's what I know God wants from me. That's what I know God wants from you. And if you don't believe in God, well, at least understand that that's the way forward, that we don't have to keep doing and dealing like this. Kids don't have to be, you know what I'm saying? This is not the way forward whether you believe in God or not. This ain't the way forward. You don't have to do that. So that's my point of view, man. I encourage everybody to check out that, for which I've already told y'all. beginning of the video. Creation and Catastrophe, I believe it was called. I might have that wrong, but check the beginning of my video and go check that out, man. It's an hour and 25 minutes, hour and 30 minutes of understanding just how Israel became what it is today. And it is an awful story, but it's not one that we haven't heard before. It's the same story of America too. People coming to other people's lands, doing them dirty, and then justifying it by sticking their flag in the land and saying it's theirs. It's wrong then, it's wrong now, and pray to God it never happens again, but if it does, it'll be wrong then too. This is not how you handle trying to get what you need for you. Rest in peace to all the children lost in this fight. All the innocent people lost in this fight. All the women who suffered great traumas of many kinds in these fights. I think of you when I speak these words. Free Palestine. BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.